Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is Innovation in Practice, People, Process, and Technology. The presentation today will be followed by a Q&A. Please enter your questions into the question box in the webinar panel on the right side of your screen. All questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We're recording this webinar and we'll be sending a video and a follow-up email in a few days. We'll also post a video on our blog over at www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I'm Wendy Curtis with ORIC, and I am really pleased to have a very distinguished group of folks here to have a discussion this afternoon about the scope of change that we're seeing in the legal industry, how best to implement innovation, and the talent model and talent skills that are really necessary for the legal profession of the future. So the way we're going to structure today is we're each going to do a brief introduction, tell you who we are, a little bit about our positions and our backgrounds, and then go through a discussion about what we're really seeing and the best practices and tips for executing on innovation strategies. So again, my name is Wendy Curtis, and I am the Chief Innovation Officer at ORIC. In my role, it's my responsibility to really understand the innovation goals of our clients and their industries, both in their business and also in their legal department. And I work with a large team of really talented folks with expertise in process management, pricing, data analytics, data scientists, technology. And so I'm really fortunate to be part of this team. And with that, I will turn introductions over to Tarek.
Hey, I am Tarek Abdullah, and I am Senior Director of Legal Operations and Data Analytics at Walmart. As we get into the meat of this webinar, I'll tell a little bit more about my team and what we do. But in addition to my work at Walmart, I also am teaching now for the second year a law school course on legal operations at the University of Arkansas School of Law.
Hi, this is Jim Lupo. I'm a professor at Northwestern University School of Law. I'm also the director of our Center for Practice Engagement and Innovation, which I will tell you about a little bit more in depth a little bit later. Before coming to Northwestern, I was in private practice for about 14 years at a boutique litigation firm in Chicago. I've been teaching, like I said, for about 16 years here at the law school. I've served in a number of different capacities. I was the director of academic counseling. I was the assistant dean for curriculum. I spent about 7 years as the associate dean for academic affairs, and now I'm running this center at the law school. I'm very pleased to be here with you all today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Darrell Shutter Lee. I am also thrilled to be here. I'm the director of ORIC Analytics, which is a group within ORIC, the firm, and we handle uses machine learning and different types of resources like a statistician, like data scientists, to bring technology and project management discipline and other tools to bear on legal problems. And we use this to drive down the cost and to increase the quality. And I look forward to talking more about this here in a minute.
All right, thank you. So Jim, I'd like to start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about Northwestern Center for Practice Engagement and Innovation?
Of course. During our last strategic planning process a few years ago, the dean asked a group of us to think about ways that the law school curriculum should respond to the changing landscape of the legal services sector. And we did what academics usually do. We sort of sat around and looked at all of the conventional wisdom and the research and the scholarship that had been done. We came up with what we thought were our best ideas. But the one nagging realization that we were all faced with was the fact that, wait for it, we don't actually practice law, so we don't know what that means. So we thought it was a really good idea to have a space and a process at the law school to bring the legal services sector into the law school to inform legal education best practices in response to the drivers of change in the legal services profession. So we've been doing that for a few years now, and essentially the center is a legal education best practices incubator.
Thank you. And so you've talked a little bit about those drivers of change. Could you talk a bit more about what you're seeing in terms of driving change in the legal services sector and how that drove the change in the law school curriculum?
Sure. excuse me, we sort of identify globalization as an incredibly important driver of change. We have lumped innovation generally together as one of the major drivers of change. When we talk about innovation, we talk about not only technology and the technological applications to the delivery of legal services, but also alternative service providers and legal process outsourcers as requiring a new set of skills and sensitivities and awarenesses for our students. In addition to that, we believe that there has been a significant change and continues to be a significant change between the relationship between clients and legal service providers. Tarek can talk about that. Certainly the rise of legal operations and Darrell, you as well, about the actual way the value is being evaluated in the delivery of services. That's a driver of change. And then one I would add as well that we've been working on through the center and through the curriculum at the law school generally is sort of the generational change. So not only how the relationship between clients and attorneys has changed, but also the way new lawyers' expectations for their careers has changed. And we're trying to develop curriculum around that. We have introduced a number of courses into the curriculum that involve law firm management, law firm economics. I lead an intensive 1-week intersession course on client strategy that talks nothing about law, but almost entirely about client relationship management and what that means to modern practice. And I think that those, while our approach might be a little different at Northwestern, I think those are the kinds of changes you're seeing throughout the legal academy.
So Jim, this is Darrell. I'll jump in. Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
Sure. I was just going to comment that as an employer, it's really, really important and really, really valuable to us. So we had our first innovation intern this summer out of a similar program. And the understanding that the intern had, even only he was the first year and had done a boot camp on these principles, it was very, very impactful. And we are in the process of hiring and expanding our innovation team. And so finding folks who understand the business of law, are open to technology, are comfortable challenging the way that we do things, and that idea that things can be done differently and better, in particular amongst a culture of lawyers who tend to generally be change resistant. It's really been something that we've valued, and we're looking for talent and really learning that there isn't that much mature talent yet in this area. You have lots of folks, I think, like my vintage, who practiced for a long time, who've been in law firm management, who are here. But in terms of newer entrants to the profession, folks that are willing to think that creatively, focus on the business as much as the underlying lawyering, is something that we're really starting to see and excited about.
And I'll add to that that folks coming in, the law students, the summer associates coming in, there's sort of a blank slate of ideas, and they look at innovation differently than folks who've been practicing over time. And with programs like yours in law schools, they're coming into this better and better armed to contribute to the conversation and to pick up the torch of innovation and carry it further. So for example, but go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
I was say it has to come from both sides, right? So you have to have the education going on to the students, right? So they're aware of it and understand what is impactful innovation within the legal industry. But then the law firms and the in-house legal departments have to be open for it. And they, to your point, Wendy, change management amongst attorneys is incredibly hard, right? So finding the right champions, ensuring that the tone is correct at the top, and making it more than just we're going to have a committee that talks about it, and actually turning it into action is critical.
Yeah, if I could respond to both those points, just from the experience of the center. Tarek, from your point, so we organize the work of the center around what we refer to in a very jargony way as our design year, and we follow design principles. We think about curriculum as an information delivery system, and we try to innovate the system with that basic understanding of what we do. The very first set of conversations we had which included an experientially diverse group of folks, senior attorneys, junior attorneys, clients, corporate legal operations folks, talent and innovation managers, et cetera. The first thing they said we should try to tackle, so this is the marketplace talking to us, was how new lawyers can learn to have a greater strategic relationship with their clients sooner. So the marketplace immediately started telling us that. Now saying things and doing things, Tarek, are two completely different things, right? But from the student side, which I think should be heartening for all of us, is that we have doubled the enrollment. We haven't quite gotten to the point of making it mandatory for our students, which I'm hoping we will do in some version in the next couple of years, talk about change management. But we have doubled the enrollment every year that we've run that program, and we've filled to a wait list. So, and this is during, yeah, and it's during the winter in Chicago. So it is really heartening. The students want it. The students see it, they know it, they feel it. And that's also relates to this idea of generational change that I mentioned too. Our students are coming in knowing this stuff certainly better than I did and better than my students 15 years ago did.
One thing that we see as we look at the incoming classes is you see, if you think about innovation in terms of people, process, and technology, and with current attorneys in place, sometimes the focus is all about the technology. So how do we get attorneys to move over and begin to use this technology? But with our incoming classes, summer associates, with that team, they're already quite comfortable with technology, because I can't remember a world where there wasn't technology. And with that team, we focus, as much on the process part and integrating that technology with our process maps and our other resources.
Yeah, I think any law school that is just introducing students to legal practice technology is answering yesterday's problem.
Exactly.
I think that there is, we have to be well into process improvement, but also well into the relationship between a technological acceleration in the delivery of services and the ethical and responsibilities of attorneys. I think that's, / leadership responsibilities of attorneys. I think that's an important part of the piece that we as a law school are certainly focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your point on design thinking is really important. We've adopted hackathons, but more than just the buzzword, but bringing design thinking to a series of questions and working with our attorneys. We've invited our clients to hackathons. We include our staff. We've invited law students. So getting as broad of a perspective. And part of our design thinking formula that we follow is a whole session or portion of the session where it's all ideas that never could be implemented. Really pushing people to their boundaries, and that's been really impactful for us. So talking about pushing boundaries, Tarek, let me switch to you for a second and ask you to describe a bit your role as Senior Director of Legal Operations, Data, and Analytics.
So I've been in the legal operations role for, well, it's actually 3 years this month. And when I first came over, we didn't have a legal operations function. And one of our general counsels was tasked with starting it. And she asked me if I'd join her in this new legal operations function. And specifically, we were tasked with solving only one problem. And that problem was, are we spending the right money with the right firms as we select outside counsel to handle our matters? And so really it was almost a finance-driven emergence of the legal operations department. So, we have just a tremendous amount of data that had been sitting around for years and years, and no one had cleaned it, looked at it, figured out if it could be impactful at all. And so what we needed to do was kind of understand where we stood, what we had, and what we could do with it. And to what Darrell was talking about as far as the types of people that he's got on his team and working with, we started hiring the same types of folks. I'm the only attorney on the team. Everyone else is a data scientist, a graphic designer, a project manager. And we look for those types of skill sets because ultimately it is about implementation of process and technology, but then also ensuring that we have the right people in place. So again, people, process, and technology is what drives it. What we immediately found out within probably 2 months of the formation of the team was that, well, actually, I should say we figured this out day one. I would say the brunt of it actually all of a sudden came crashing down on us into, holy smokes, I can't believe there's so much to do about a couple months into it. And we quickly expanded because there were so many things that operations could do. And so what we ended up doing is building out 3 pillars to my team. So we have data and analytics, which basically we're looking to turn data into actionable information. We want to inform people. We don't want to take away their decision-making authority, but we want to help them ensure that they make the most informed decision possible. So data and analytics is one piece of it. So this is dashboards, this is analytics tools, this is doing deep dives into certain matters or law firms. So anything that you think that can go on with data, that's what we're working on. The second piece is just overall systems. And this, we have several systems that are used in the legal department that are only used by the legal department. So we support all of those, we maintain all of those, we are the system admins for all of those. And it was interesting, there were some people on the team that were there prior to it turning into legal operations that kind of had a help desk function almost, which was interesting because the legal department was the only group that I'm aware of in all of Walmart, and I think we've got 2.2 million associates worldwide now, but that had its own internal help desk. Everyone else called the enterprise help desk. But attorneys are special, right? We're very special people, so we get very special treatment. And we had to change the brand and the perception of those folks as we're not here to solve your Windows problem or tell you how to get a new computer, but we are here to support you as you use your matter management system or your document management system or IP management or anything like that. So, or legal holds. So we have systems responsibility as well. And then finally, we're just overall operations. And this is where, just general innovation comes into play. And we try to align ourselves with the corporate strategy so we're not working in a silo. And this is where the project managers are housed. And so anybody who's got any innovation, whether that's structural, whether that's the type of people that we hire, whether it's technology or the way that we do things, we've got a laundry list that we're never going to be able to complete. And what's exciting, though, is that more and more we're getting ideas from within the legal department from folks as they see that there is change that can be made and maybe that there is a better way to do things than they're currently doing it. So overall, that's kind of how the team is structured. And our bottom line goal is what I call legal transformation. And that is transforming what is typically, or can be a lot of times, an in-house law firm sort of mentality. We got to get out of a corporate legal department is not an in-house law firm. What it is it's a legal business unit. And so that's kind of how I encapsulate what we do. We go transformation from in-house law firm to legal business unit. We should be treated the same way as any other business unit. We should be held accountable to the same types of standards. There should not be very many differences, at least at the foundation.
So Tarek, this is Jim. I want to make sure that I'm going to ask a question. I'm not sure if I missed it, but a lot of what we do in this immersion course on client strategy involves exactly the kinds of things you're talking about. Do you apply the analytics processes and data that you have both to make a decision as to when and whether to retain outside counsel, as well as to deciding which counsel that would be?
So we use it to decide. Right now, we use it on a limited basis to help decide. Well, and I say limited because one of the key things, and I know we're going to talk about this later, is like, what are some of the goals for the Walmart legal department? One of the biggest goals is increasing adoption. So we do use it for determination of who to hire. We have not used it for when to hire. But although that may get into, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, into some of the predictive analytics that the team's currently working on, that we're hoping we're going to see some benefit from in the coming year.
To actually drive strategy, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Okay, so Tarek, that was a big teaser. So do you want to go ahead and tell us about some of the predictive data analytics and what you're hoping to have happen in the next year?
Yeah, one of the probably the major focus, and where it's focused right now, is especially on our, let's take our, high volume sort of commoditized sort of claims that we get. So whether it's slip, trip, and fall, that's a great example, right? We have years and years worth of data on that, and at their core, they're pretty much the same thing again and again. And so what we've been working on is building out, harnessing the data and then building out models that are going to help us determine, okay, so based on these factors in the algorithm, is this something that we can handle internally, or should it go external? Is it something that we have that we think will prevail? So should we try to resolve it? Should we fight it? Should we settle it? If we're going to settle it, for how much? And at what stage in the litigation cycle should we do it to optimize our return? So that's kind of the main focus of the predictive work that we're doing now.
And as you set those goals, how do you, as a legal department, define and measure your innovation goals?
So that is it's tough. Let me start. It's very, very tough. So a couple of the things I guess I should say the first thing that we do is, did it make things simpler, faster, or less expensive? So those are three simple ways that we look at whether or not something was affected. ROI isn't always dollars. It's satisfaction, it's experience, it's just how easy was something, and did it make, at the end of the day, someone's life a little bit easier as they did their work. So those are that's at its core. Additionally, what we look at is, are people using it? So to the extent that we can pull utilization for certain tools or processes, that is something that we track. We also garner feedback via surveys and multiple surveys on the same innovation, regardless of whether that's process or technology, to get an initial thoughts, and then a couple months down the road and after tweaks, and it's a feedback loop that we can incorporate then feedback into any changes that we're going to make to that process or to that technology. So those are some of the ways that we measure it.
Thank you. And for the folks who are participating or listening, we are going to take questions in a few minutes. So if you're thinking of questions as you hear the discussion, don't hesitate to go ahead and start to put those in the question features of the webinar. So Darrell, let me turn to you for a second. Could you describe for us your role in Oric Analytics?
Sure, happy to. So Oric Analytics, so I'm the director of Oric Analytics, and Oric Analytics sits alongside the practice attorneys throughout the firm and looks for opportunities to insert different types of people, process, and technology into the way that Oric delivers legal services, and working with our clients to achieve their goals. So innovation is not something that happens in a vacuum. It doesn't happen at our global operations center in Wheeling, West Virginia. It doesn't happen in New York. It doesn't happen at our clients. It's a team effort. It's a team sport. And so the part of that sport that we play is we use a variety of technologies, different types of people and processes to move the needle. So for example, people, I mentioned Joe, our statistician. I might have mentioned Stephen, who builds tools, databases, scripts, different types of ways that we can solve legal problems without resorting to the traditional hours model. And so we work alongside other groups in the firm, groups like Oric Labs, groups like KStream, but the part that we play in this is primarily bringing to term people, process, and technology. On the process front, we look at project management discipline. I mentioned process earlier as something we work with our newer attorneys on because they come to the table so steep in technology. We see process discipline as a really important part of the delivery of legal services. So our project managers work alongside of our firm attorneys to make sure that we're tracking to budget, that we're on task, and that we're flagging potential decision points in advance.
Thanks, Darrell. So can you give a bit of an overview of how you and your team go about
industry? Legal tech is $1 billion industry, and we built an internal process to review that technology in the market. There are so many tools and there are so many use cases for tools, and they all are at various stages of the growth process. And so what we do is we work with our clients, we work with different vendors, we work with other folks in the industry to figure out what tools are more advanced, what tools show more promise, and then we work with the companies themselves to figure out where they are in the development lifecycle. Where are they in building them? Where are they in their funding rounds? And when will they be ready for prime time? And so we built a tool that tracks the different tools we're looking at, potential use cases, funding rounds, all the different attributes, and then ranks them and helps us sift through the more than almost 300 companies that we're tracking to figure out which ones might be a good use case for a particular matter. And then in addition to the market, tracking the market out there, we have Oric Labs, which I mentioned earlier, which is our skunk works. And Oric Labs is designed to answer the question, if we can't build it, or if we can't buy it, can we build it? And so that team looks at technology solutions that we can build that add value.
And Tarek and Jim, any comments about how you think about the evaluation and ultimate successful deployment of technology?
You know, for me, it's first of all, a little bit similar to what Darrell says. I mean, there's always that mix of outside vendor and in-house build, and it's something that you have to look at quickly to figure out what is going, or closely to figure out what's going to do the best for you. One thing that we have been very interested in doing and had some success with, and it sounds like you all may be doing it as well at Oric, is finding some startups or startup companies and then kind of partnering with them from the get-go if we believe that their technology is transformative. I don't know if you all are familiar with Legalmation. Legalmation, if you're not, you should check it out. Legalmation is an amazing technology where basically if you take a high volume commoditized, let's say a simple tort action in the state of California, you have the complaint, you drag and drop the PDF into the Legalmation engine, and in 60 seconds it has the answer, first set of rocks, first set of RFPs with about 85% accuracy.
Wow.
Incredible.
And
yep.
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing, and it is something that we worked with. They had the idea, they had begun to put it together, and we talked about it and said, let us help you develop and figure this thing out. And it's something that we've rolled out for our California single plaintiff employment cases and slip, trip, and falls, and we are moving into other states later this year. So those partners, we're doing something similar in e-discovery, where we found basically a great natural language processing company. So help us read and understand what is relevant when it comes to e-discovery requests, and let's build it and potentially even commercialize it together. So we have conversations with companies that, hey, if we joint develop, do we have a relationship where there's some benefit to Walmart beyond just the tool?
Tarek, how do you go ahead?
No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
What are your thoughts on the fact that many of these tools, while showing great promise, are cloud-based and run in really small, lightly funded startups? So how do you balance that, putting confidential data in the hands of a startup?
Yes, that is a constant battle that we fight. One of the biggest things is, for example, well, with some of them, we just bring it into our own networks. So sometimes if we're able to do that, we'll do that. We are historically a very conservative company when it comes to all sorts of things, and certainly data security. Knock on wood, I won't even say it out loud, but we've done all right with regard to data security. So we certainly have to think about what is being put on there. Sometimes we will only do a class of matters or lawsuits and exclude other classes. Ultimately, we've got to have a trusting relationship with the people and the technology that they're utilizing. But again, it is not something that is taken lightly. And we have a very rigorous security review process led by our outside of legal, but from our broader Walmart technology teams.
Wendy, in response to the earlier question about evaluating technology from the law school perspective, we have a robust program with an innovation lab, and we start from the position of what are the problems that need to be solved and work out, as opposed to what are the applications and work toward the problems, if that makes any sense at all. And so as using technology as a teaching opportunity, we do a lot of the hard work first to try to identify the problems that need to be solved. We've been doing a lot of work on access to justice issues, connecting people to, well, first the understanding about whether or not the law can solve a problem for them, but thinking about how to connect them with resources to solve those particular problems. So when we think about technology, it's always from, how can we teach through the resolution of a problem, and then think about either innovating a tech-based solution or finding applications that we can in the marketplace to help train our future lawyers to be better problem solvers with the application of the technology that they can create or that's available to them externally.
We've gotten a couple questions now from our attendees, so let me pose a few of these to the panel. One of our attendees has asked if we consider innovation to be a core component of a lawyer's professional responsibility.
Yes, I do, and then there are drivers for that, because first of all, the rules of ethics are requiring more and more proficiency with technological innovation, and our clients, my students' future clients are increasingly requiring it as a basic proficiency. So if our clients are requesting it as a basic proficiency, it's not a far throw to say that you have an ethical obligation to be able to meet those needs and those expectations.
It's also just good lawyering.
Yeah.
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 And we do all have an ethical obligation to manage our clients' expense. And so, Tarek, going back to how you measure success of innovation, one is, did it improve cost, efficiency, and quality? So do you think that's just a basic fundamental requirement? So we have another question about how to develop a background in education if you want to pursue a career in legal innovation. And the question is the importance of an MBA or another master's or something else in design. So whether you need a master's in design, whether you should get an MBA, or what else do you need beyond a JD to be well positioned to have a career in legal innovation? Or do you need more education beyond a JD?
I mean, I'll give a fairly simple answer from my perspective. Is there something beyond a JD that's required? No. Do you even need a JD? That depends on what the role is. To me, the single biggest quality is just intellectual curiosity, and it is that innate ability to find solutions to problems and to ask questions and to be willing to go against what may be conventional wisdom or the norm. So to me, those are the biggest things. Again, I'm the only attorney on my team, and there's not an MBA on the team. We have degrees, we have certifications in project management, we have degrees in computer science and data analytics, and we have a lot of people who on their own time are out there taking online courses on anything that may interest them that they think is going to help them in their jobs.
Yeah, this may very well be a statement against interest here as a law school professor. But I kind of, well, no, I agree that while a JD would be useful for basically some threshold understanding of what the problems are that need to be solved, I don't know that you need a JD to understand the problems that need to be solved. As a statement in my interest, we've got a really great program here at the law school called our Masters of Science and Law, which is geared directly toward folks in the STEM fields that might have an interest in solving problems, using technology, solving problems, using design principles. We work very closely with the Siegel Design Center at the law school, and this is not, while the MSL program may be unique, the opportunity to engage design thinking in the solution of legal problems is not. It's pretty prevalent in a lot of law schools, and I don't think all of those programs are limited to just to JD students. So I completely agree with Tarek on this. That I question whether you need that. I mean, no one would question whether or not you need to be an architect to figure out how best to deliver or put a system together to deliver raw materials to a construction site, right? So that basic understanding of technology and a curiosity about simple, elegant solutions to problems are the most important things.
I would add, so we spend a lot of time thinking about the individual innovators within an organization, in a law firm. That tends to be attorneys that folks think about. But I think in addition to the individual, the culture of the broader organization is hugely relevant to the level of innovation happening in that organization. So having a chief innovation officer with a budget and a mandate, and that has access to firm management and it's part of the strategic decision making, is really key, because that tone filters down to the rest of the organization. And this idea that an individual person sitting somewhere in a large wheel is going to somehow make a difference from their seat. They're one part of a broader ecosystem, and that ecosystem needs to change together in some ways.
I think it's interesting the comments that you each made. I'm reading through the questions that have come up, and you're answering a lot of them. So one of the questions posed was, do you have to work for a law firm for a few years, or can you start innovating right away? And I think that covered a lot of that in just some of the discussions so far. Another question that was asked is, do any of the firms offer innovation credit? At ORIC, we do. Our associates are given an opportunity to receive credit if their innovation ideas are consistent with the overall firm strategy. We also, as I mentioned, offer the design thinking and hackathons for our associates. Another question, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but it's worth coming back to. And Darrell, you were hitting on it and was talking about culture and resources. But the question is that I think it boiled down to, in a situation where you have resistance to change, what are our, as a panel, our recommendations, tips, best practices, pitfalls, war stories about starting to turn the aircraft carrier in the right direction?
Well, for me, and again, if I take sort of the professor's approach to this, I always talk about it in terms of understanding how core values of either an institution or an individual can be served by a change in thinking about how the institution works and whether or not there's other more elegant external solutions to those problems. So bringing it home to what the problem is and what the nature of what the actual values of the institution or the individual are, that is the most persuasive way to to try to start turning that cumbersome institution around. And a cliche that is always helpful to me when I'm talking to the external stakeholders that I talk to through the center's work is that, look, a person and a tool is always stronger than a tool alone or a person alone. And if you're trying to solve a particular problem, why not find the best possible tool, whether you make it in-house or you go out and find it.
And I would add, and I know Darrell, I think, can probably echo this, but in a law firm, the audience that you're trying to convince has been trained at critical thinking, if not poking holes in whatever you say. And so when we look for people to join our team, when we look for those change agents, you have to be able to go in and not personalize the hard questions and expect that that process will only make you better. But it is a different audience. I mean, that is how we're all trained. And so don't personalize the skepticism, instead embrace it. And then I do think that there's enough happening in the industry right now, so much disruption, so much widely reported about the impact of technology, the change in growth in alternative legal service providers, that people are much more open to this kind of discussion, or at least aware that change is inevitable, than they were even 3 years ago.
The other reality here is that this does not need to be an expensive proposition. So it wasn't that long ago that we all remember talking about making giant enterprise level purchases of technology with giant total cost of ownership and bringing tools in. It was a whole different proposition. The advent of the cloud, as the whole industry gets more comfortable, as security evolves, it's going to drive down the cost of using those technologies with licensing models and the like.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. So we have a question about whether or not lawyers are really being rewarded for innovation. I thought maybe Tarek, you and I could take this. At ORIC, we have an innovation prize for the kind of one idea a year. It's a significant cash prize. As I mentioned, we have creditable time. As you understand innovation, it's also an opportunity to have more direct access to your client, to participate in pitches, to deepen the client relationship. It's also an opportunity to have a leadership role within your practice. If you understand a key innovation in the practice, either what's happening in your client's industry or the way in which we are changing, delivering the client service, there's opportunity. But Tarek, I don't know if you want to speak to, from a client perspective, how you reward firms or lawyers who embrace innovation?
Yeah, so as far as external firms are concerned, we are certainly looking for differentiators, and we are looking for people who are strategic partners with us. And so part of that is showing a commitment to what is important to us. So if innovation is important to us, and if finding better, faster, cheaper ways to do things is important to us, then we want to partner with people who will align with that. As far as the relationship between a corporate client and outside counsel is concerned, we have to be aligned both on legal goals, but then also on business goals. And so I will just say that the firms that just continue to focus on let's get as many timekeepers as possible and bill at this hourly rate, and that never show any sort of change or analysis or innovation, as we continue to evolve as a legal department, as a company, I think they're going to have less and less opportunity to garner business from us, because the entire company, Walmart, has had to make tremendous shifts over the last couple of years, and the legal department is expected to keep up. And we have to find the partners that will do that with us. When we rolled out Legalmation, it was we had to find law firms that represented us in California that were willing to go along with it, despite the fact that it might be scary and might take away a little bit of business from them, at least early on. But you know what we found? We found that, hey, these are firms that are in it for the long haul with Walmart, and they'll get more business as a result of it. So that's what we need to find, that strategic partner with aligned business and legal goals.
Tarek, Darrell, and Jim, I want to thank you for participating and your very helpful and very practical insights. And I'd like to thank all of the attendees for the volume of questions. I mean, this is great. I think it really helped direct our discussion. And so with that, I think we're done.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks,
All right.
all.
Thank you very much, guys. That's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Westlaw Edge, and thank all of you for attending our webinar today as part of the LTRC Industry Insight Series. I'd also like to thank Wendy for presiding over everything today, as well as our panelists, Darrell, Tarek, and Jim, for presenting today. We'll now conclude the webinar.